Hello, good afternoon, Eastern Time, and good morning to the Pacific Time. Our friends around the world, probably it's middle of the night. Thank you all for joining today for the Valentine's Day seminar. It's our second going organic seminar, and we are very excited to welcome Lane Selman for Culinary Breeding Net from the Culinary Breeding Network. And our program is actually funded by the USDA NIFA OREI, Feed the Future Innovation Lab, and South Carolina Department of Ag, Good Food Institute, and USDA Agriculture ARS. And I forgot to introduce myself. So I am Dil Thavaraja. I'm a professor here at the Clemson University, oversee the plant pulse quality and nutritional breeding program. So today's our guest speaker is Ms. Lane Selman. She's the assistant professor of practice at the Oregon State University. And she was actually born and raised in a citrus farm near Silicon Grade in around 1989 on their grandparents' farm in the coast, and her farm has a very much of a reputation for her grandparents' farm, and she studied agronomy and entomology at the University of Florida before moving to Oregon in 2000. As a professor of practice at Oregon State University, she has worked on the organic vegetables and the grain farms managed collaborative research project. She's one of the colleagues that I'm working with on our crops as well to take it to the next level of participatory breeding. So thank you all, and I am going to ask Lane to start the show. Thank you, Lane.
Thank you so much, Dale. It's so nice to be here. I really appreciate it. I'm going to share my screen and get started. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about an initiative I started called the Culinary Breeding Network. I'll put this down right now. I don't think I'm going to be able to see the questions, so I'll just go ahead and just take the questions at the end. If that is all right, I plan to go for about 30-40 minutes, or maybe I'll try to do it 30 minutes, and then take questions afterwards. So I'm going to really focus a lot on the outreach activities that I have been involved with, because I think that is what people are the most interested in, and all of the different things that I do at my role at Oregon State University. Okay, so just to let you know, like the Culinary Breeding Network is sort of a brand that I've created, right? So just like an identity, and the mission is to build communities and kind of create connection between plant breeders, seed growers, farmers, retailers, distributors, culinary professionals, and other stakeholders in the food system to improve quality in vegetables and in grains. We could say fruits as well if we wanted to. I just haven't really worked, well, I've worked with botanically some fruits, but I usually am not working with tree fruits, but that could extend to that. So as you see these pictures, I kind of choose, it's a lot about bringing people together and building community. And so the way that it works most often is I work with a lot of different projects, and my role typically is to identify and create relationships with stakeholders in the food system, build community, like I've said before, within research projects. I'm going to talk a little bit about that on the next slide. Create engagement through events and activities like what we call outreach, at the university level, and then also kind of creating marketing campaigns to promote different vegetables and grains. So here's some of the projects that I work on. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about each of those in the next few slides. So how that sometimes works is sometimes these are research projects where they're USDA ORE funded, and some of you might right now be involved in submitting OREIs as well as I am. And so here is an example of some of those. So NOVIC is a project, the Northern Organic Vegetable Improvement Collaborative, that just ended this past year. It went for 12 years. So that was OREI funded. The other two that are OREI that I was going to talk about are the value added grains, which is about 6 different grains that I work with breeders across the country. There's all these grains that are and pseudo grains that are pictured here in this artwork. Barley, which is led out of OSU, where we work specifically on organic naked barley. And then this other project is a Western SARE funded, and this is focusing on dry farming. And so I have a few different projects that I work on right now that involve dry farm melons and tomatoes. One thing that you'll notice right away probably is it's a really pretty artwork. So this is part of what I try to do with projects that I'll talk a little bit about later. It's kind of like the marketing side of it, where I try to make it very colorful and interesting so that people for outside of like a university system might like look at this and be like, wow, like what is this? Eat Dry Farm. It's a beautiful poster. What is this? So it instills like curiosity and interest in just average consumers, right? Okay, and then some are just straight up marketing campaigns. And so a lot of times these are specialty crop block program grants. This one on the left is actually funded by the Green Bean Commission here in Oregon, and it was promoting Oregon green beans. I also did a project called Eat Winter Vegetables. The intro slide where I'm holding on to that really giant cabbage was part of that. And we have some events that we celebrate these winter vegetables that farmers grow, and people could be more excited about eating locally in the wintertime when we have a lot more information for them, beautiful artwork, and excitement around the winter vegetables. Again, we're going to get into this in this whole presentation. And then down here at the bottom is this collaborative market development project I'm working with farmers and retailers and wholesalers to get the public really excited about dry farm melons and tomatoes, which I've talked to you about, or I mentioned already, and then as well as chicories and winter radishes for our winter crops. And we'll talk more about this as we go through. So sometimes they're just really focused on promotion and marketing, and there might not be really huge research breeding projects behind them. Although I want to say for the dry farm melons and tomatoes, this is a grant that I wrote in conjunction with research that is already being going on. Like I said, the SARE project is mostly about the research and variety trials, and trying to figure out which varieties perform best, dry farmed, grafted, not grafted. There's a lot of science behind that, but I come in and just do like the promotion of the ones that we know really perform well. Okay, so the thing that the Culinary Breeding Network, or I am most well known for, is putting on some pretty bomb, I will say, outreach events, and they're really fun. They're very, very interactive and engaging for the public. And they just make a lot of impact as far as creating new relationships between farmers, seed growers, and plant breeders. So the one that the one that is I started doing actually 10 years ago in 2014 is called the Variety Showcase. So this is just an example of the posters. And like I said before, like I work with usually local to wherever I'm going to be. Like the top left one was in New York. The middle one was in Portland. The bottom right was in Hawaii. So I work with like local artists to come up with a really beautiful poster to try to get people really engaged and excited about attending these events. And so the Variety Showcase, really the purpose is to shed light on the importance of organic seed and organic plant breeding. And so what happens is I call them curators because it features seed work of these individuals that might be university breeders, it could be independent plant breeders, it could be seed companies, nonprofits, other folks that are doing some type of seed work in the organic selection or breeding realm. And each table kind of focuses on what their breeding, is for that particular thing that they're showing. So right here in the hands of this person, that in this illustration are indigo type tomatoes. And so Jim Myers works on indigo tomatoes, and maybe he's showing us indigo tomatoes that have already been released, or maybe something that's in the process. And so, and I'll show you examples of these tables. So then they are each paired with, I call it culinary artists, because it could be someone who is a chef, it could be a baker, it could be a mixologist, someone in the culinary realm that takes that that thing that we really want people to know about that come to the event from the breeder, and makes a really fantastic dish. So it gets people excited because people love to eat, as we know. So the attendees really have this very unique experience to taste new and in development vegetable, fruit, and grain cultivars that are being developed or already developed. Sometimes they're a new release, sometimes they've been around for a while. People get to engage in conversation, share opinions, and what I always say, take part in breaking down the walls between the eaters and the breeders, right? So it's a fantastic opportunity. And I really like to make sure that people are having fun and enjoy it, because I think this is what encourages people to actually come to these events. Okay, so this is this in the middle is the last variety showcase we just had in New York, partnered with the Glenwood Center for Regional Food and Farming in the Hudson Valley. This is part of our value added grains. And so that's why there's a lot of grains that are incorporated. But anyway, these are folks that have come to different variety showcases in the photos. So you can kind of see how we do. We have pair up a breeder with culinary folks. Sometimes there's also a farmer at the table, and they get to show off all of this work that they're doing. And it does have quite a bit of impact. And so you can see a quote here from Bill Tracy, who is in the bottom left picture. He's a corn breeder at University of Wisconsin. Okay, so this is an example. This is actually one of the very first tables. It was at the very first variety showcase. And back then I was really focused on giving folks that came the opportunity to taste different released commercial cultivars side by side with breeding. Like this is beets, obviously beets that are in the process of being bred. So this is Erwin Goldman's beets before it was his Badger Flame. I think it's that the one to the PJ 876. I think it was that one. Anyway, these are some of his Badger beets that he was working on. They weren't yet released. And so people come here and they have the opportunity to taste and look at beets side by side and taste them roasted and raw. And they've all been grown at the same place. So we've eliminated E, right? It's all in the same environment. So now we're just looking at G, and it's like, let's take a look at what are the differences in these? Which ones do people prefer? Sometimes we do ballots. Sometimes we do like a QR code, and you could use that opportunity if you wanted to collect some data. It's kind of a little bit hard because there can be a lot of people. But anyway, it's a very fantastic selection event because you're actually standing at the table and interacting with a lot of consumers and talking to them about what they like, as well as farmers. So this is an example of, we had some fennel trials that we were doing out here as part of Novik, and everyone got the opportunity to look at each and also taste them. So this, if you saw the one before, so there's a code at the bottom that, so that obviously we don't want people to know exactly what they're tasting right away, because we don't want that to influence what they think. So then this is an example of what's on the back. When you turn it over in the back, it tells you the variety, it tells you if it's a hybrid and OP, and also the seed source. So if you're a grower that's really interested in this, you could go out and purchase the seed that you wanted to grow the following year. Okay, so this is an example of, this is a organic carrot breeding program, a project that is led by Phil Simon at USDA in Wisconsin with the Organic Seed Alliance. So this is a really cool table where these are not released. This is in development carrots, and they want to get some feedback from consumers as to, what do you think about these? I mean, obviously these look very different from one another. Is there going to be consumer acceptance? Do people like this? Do they like the taste, the shape, the size, the color, all of those things? So this, like I said, is Phil Simon, and Phil has said about these types of events, he's like, I get more input from consumers at this one event than I do the whole entire rest of the year. So even though it might not be, replicated and something that maybe you want to publish, as far as for you to go back out to your field and decide what are you going to select for, it's a really fantastic selection event to really understand what consumers like and don't like. Okay, so here is an example of a table where we have a chef with a farmer, with a breeder. So that's Jim Myers at OSU. Many of you guys probably know him. This is when he was working, he still is, but I think he has some release now, the tromboncino squash, and then also some ahi peppers. And so he gets to show off all these different breeding lines, see what people think about them. And then the chefs make something, usually they make something like super fantastic and exciting and something you wouldn't make at home. So he made a soda from the peppers, and then he also made little lollipops from the squash. So at this event really is just letting the chefs just get wild and do things that you would never have at home. That's going to come up in a few minutes when I talk about a different type of event. Okay, so again, here we go with Phil, and this is when Lori was at Organic Seed Alliance breeding the carrots. So they show off all the carrots, have a lot of engagement, talk to a lot of people here, and then their chef makes something really fantastic from the carrots. And as you can see, fun, they're having fun. So I present it like it's a food event, but there's a lot of content and information. Along with this, they actually get a little booklet that at this point is about 100 pages long that has a bio of the breeders that are there and what their breeding projects are and the goals of their breeding. So, and then this is when Colin was a PhD student at the bread lab, and he was working on some wheat. And this is Mel, who's his partner with the bakery. This is some fantastic project that Jim, this is an independent plant breeder, Frank Morton with Wild Garden Seed, and he was doing some work with some seed work with parsley. It was really interesting. Got all these parsley accessions from the GRIN database and grew them all out, and just really wanted to create one hardy parsley that didn't bolt, but went through the winter time. And he was just going to let them all mix up, right? And just, mix with one another and come up with one variety. But they actually tasted quite different from one another because some were from Turkey and some were from Macedonia and some were from, different Hungary, different areas of the world. So they actually had different flavor characteristics that chefs like Nora here really appreciate the differences of. So, we got to, when you came to this table, you had the opportunity to taste them side by side, and then she made this granita that was fantastic. Okay, so really at these tables, there's a lot of different values and motivations for the organic breeding work. And so they could be heirloom preservation. It is always flavor and organic breeding, but it could be more about spirituality. It could be about something for nutrition. It could be cultural diversity. There's a lot of different reasons why we do this, that individuals at the tables do this work. I just put this in here to talk about that because I like to make sure that I incorporate the values of the folks that are doing this work, and it's also in that little booklet I told you. So this is just some pictures I'll go through really quick of like the New York event that we just had this last October. And so we had there were two big tents like this outside. This is like the grains tent. There's tons of grains work that's being done at multiple universities. We also have bitter melons from Michael Mazurek. There was a lot of corn. Then the thing is, what I want you to really see here is like the focus really is on like beauty and like in diversity, and it really sucks people in. It really gets people, average consumers, interested in learning more. Because if I told everyone, hey, you want to come to this event and we're going to talk about climate change, we're going to talk about, these things that we actually are at the heart of all these projects, they're probably not going to be as exciting until they see all this pink cabbage, a huge wide diversity of beans. This is what draws people in. And then we have our indigenous partners that we did like a lot of dried squash and corn. We have try to involve a lot of different cultures and a lot of different crops that are utilized in ways beyond what Americans really think about. So it's all about diversity at that event. Another event that I organize is a Sagra. So there's one that's specifically about radicchio that we're looking at here on the left-hand side, and then this other Sagra, which was a celebration of winter vegetables. Now the Sagra is a little bit different from the variety showcase, where the variety showcase goes all the way back to the seed and the breeding aspect. A sagra really is something, if anybody's been to Italy and maybe you've seen these kinds of things before, there's like 30,000 of them in different places in Italy. And so they are like celebrations to really celebrate a specific food or a dish or something that's very specific to the area. And the reason I do this is it's just like seriously just for like marketing and promotion of particular vegetables that we want people to increase demand for because it works really well for our farmers. So I've organized quite a few of these. I'm not going to go through all of this, but you can look at this. I also want to say that we get a lot of people at these events. I didn't mention that before, but the 2020 event in Portland for the Variety Showcase, we had 700 attendees. This one had 500, and there's a lot of participants too, 125 participants. This one we had about 20 tables at this Sagra. And this is just this is more of like a deep dive into the diversity within one crop. So this is garlic and then also radicchio. We can get into the seed work and we can get into the breeding, but really it's just about getting people super excited about particular ingredients that they can buy and get from local farmers. And one of those things is cooking at home. So like I told you at the Variety Showcase, I just let the chefs go wild and take peppers and make marshmallows from them. I don't care what they do. But at the Sagra, we really want to be working with like culinary kind of educators that take these particular, so these are actually like the tables that are at this Sagra, and people are showing how they actually, like, this is butchering winter squash. One reason that people don't want to eat really big winter squash, we found, even though they might taste better, is that they're afraid of cutting them. So we show them how to cut them. We show them how to work with cabbage. We show them how to make something with celeriac. So they get to see how you make it, see how simple it is, get the recipe for that thing, and then taste it. A lot of people come with their kids, and then they get their kids excited about celeriac. And then sometimes it's also with a farmer's market. So we do this in conjunction with a market, and then you could just go right to the farmer and buy the celeriac. With this particular project, we had a website that we created, eatwintervegetables.com. You could go on and you could like find all the recipes if you didn't go to the event, you know, or if you were looking at it years later, like now, because this is back in like 2019, you can go get the cabbage spatzel recipe right now if you want. Okay, so then I told you I do a lot of work around radicchio. So I do an event that's specifically about radicchio. And this was started, like, this didn't have any kind of grant or anything behind it. There was no funding. It was kind of just this grassroots sort of thing that we started doing. Like, radicchio lovers are hardcore. It's like and I have been, it has been compared to starting a cult. So I'll show you that later. But anyway, really fantastic, really fun celebration of the diversity within the Chicoria genus. So this is, again, we have a Photoshop shoot, you can do in front of this. This was in Seattle. That's why you see the Space Needle. This is my son many years ago and his friend. So you get to taste radicchio in a lot of different ways. Here is the Sagra this past year. This is a venue I use very often in Portland, Oregon. It can hold, like I said, like 700 attendees I've had sometimes. So this is an example of what that looks like. And like around the perimeter is where we have all the tables, and it really encourages a lot of engagement. It's a really interactive and fun event. So here's just an example of the radicchio tables. Also, like, it's very good for like, you can see these hanging tomatoes, like introducing a new type of crop. These are tomatoes that do very, very well in dry farming. They grow a lot in southern Italy under dry farm conditions without without any irrigation, but people don't know about them. It's a really fantastic place to like introduce something like that. Okay, and then again, we do a lot of like culinary like demos that people can see how you cook something, and then they get to taste it. Just some more, we have a lot of kids there. I said that these are older kids, but teens, but like getting teens to eat radicchio and cabbage and all these other things is really quite exciting. And then I want to say, some of you guys might know Alice Formiga. She runs eOrganic. She's also in Oregon at Oregon State University. And I work with her and Jim Myers often to curate these art shows. So I try to incorporate as many things that I think that could kind of invoke some kind of interest and curiosity in people. So they want to learn more about grains and vegetables. And so this is an example of a little art exhibit that that Alice curated for our radicchio Sagra. So really, it's really fun and just a whole nother way to enjoy vegetables, I feel like. And like I said, have been in the media compared to someone starting a cult. So another aspect of this is getting a lot of kind of media attention and getting and outreach beyond just our local area. So Portland Monthly did this cute article. It was quite long. It was really great. Interviewed a lot of farmers, talked about why it is that we're growing radicchio and how wonderful it is as a crop in the wintertime for farmers to be actually making money. So that is really fantastic. And most people just know the Chioggia, the round one on the left-hand side here, but there's all these different types of radicchio. And then also in the New York Times, we had an article about chicories and growing them as well as consuming them. Okay, and so it also it has had a lot of impact for farmers, increasing sales. And the Sagra was supported by a grant, a specialty crop law grant. Okay, one other thing I want to tell you about, like as far as events go, is a festival. So it's just a different type. These other events are much bigger. They're harder to put on. They're very expensive. They also, in addition to grant funding, they have ticket sales. But sometimes I just do more simplistic and outside events called festivals that I do with a local market called Well Spent Market. And we get a lot of people in to do citizen science. And like I said, like you can have a plant breeder like Jim Myers involved in having a table and get some data. There's less people that attend this, but still probably about 300, 350 people. So this is outside, again, completely free, open to the public. Again, these are the tomatoes that we're trying to introduce to people because they do really well dry farm. So here I am here holding some up. We worked with the Dry Farm Institute. This is Amy, who's the executive director, and I worked with her to create these exploration boxes, which you can see up at the top. And these I helped to put together all of the marketing and then get the illustrations done. And she sells these and it helps the nonprofit to expose people to what these types of tomatoes are. So if you turn over those little cards that come in the exploration box, then you can get an explanation of each one and where they're from and what you do with them. Jim Myers had a table with his indigo tomatoes. It was a great opportunity for him to interact with people. He had them actually do ballots, and he got some data from his breeding lines there. This is promoting our dry farm work that Matt Davis is doing here. And again, he has a tasting ballot here. People take it away and they can do it at home, and he gets to see, what do people think about these early girls? Are they better than this other variety? Is it better grafted or not? And just exposure for the project in general. Same thing with the melons. So trying to introduce different types of melons that do really well dry farmed to the public. Farmers are there selling their dry farm tomatoes. And we also have local folks like this author of this cookbook, Simply Tomato. And on the right-hand side, we've got Nikki, who makes products, value-added products. And we give her the dry farm tomatoes, and she does some, test batches, and she creates a product. And then she can start buying from local farmers that are growing the same varieties for these value-added products. And then, of course, we just eat tomatoes in a different way all day long. Same thing for the Green Bean Fest. I'm going to go through this really fast. I just want to give you guys inspiration. And if you want to start trying to do these in your area, we make a zine for the green beans. We got all the content, put it in a little zine. This is the chef that helped us create some green bean recipes. So you can see how, what size the zine is. It has some background on green beans, breeding, the cultural significance of green beans in Oregon, and some recipes. It gets out into the media. OPB did a big piece on it. We wrote some articles to get out to the media so we can get beyond just our festival that we organize. These are some of the examples of the recipe cards that we do distribute at the festival. Here is the festival. Again, Jim Myers is a green bean breeder, so he has green beans there for people to taste. And we had green bean ice cream, which, if not weird enough, it was actually not dairy. It was based on banana. Anyway, it tasted good, but it sounds weird. Anyway, So it was a great opportunity. We gave away a ton of these zines. We got people excited about Oregon green beans. I'm just going to pop this in here really quick. I do a lot of work also with the Italians because of the radicchio work. And so this is a celebration that we organize in Italy of winter vegetables. Again, a lot of beauty. People, I just can't stress that enough. A lot of people really are attracted to something that's very beautiful. That's what inspires them to ask more questions and get deeper into all of this. Okay, so marketing campaigns. You've seen some of the examples of this already, but this is some of the work I do also, is to try to develop content for the public, do some branding, artwork, and those posters, recipe development. So here's some of the posters that I've helped to create with local artists for different projects. So like I said, we had Eat Winter Vegetables, like trying to promote 8 different vegetables to get people excited about, and also dry farm. So dry farm, we need to explain, what is that? Why does it matter? Why do you want to buy that? The zines, you saw some examples of those already. These are zines for many different projects that I've worked with. And also they're available to give out. They're also on the Culinary Breeding Network website, free. You can just download them. There's PDFs, and they have been downloaded and given out like crazy. People love them. I also have a YouTube site now. Get a lot of information out on YouTube. I think there's about 2,000 subscribers of that now. We did a lot of stuff during COVID this way, so there's a lot of content up there. This is just like how many. It was crazy when we first did Rad TV. We couldn't have the saga, so we did a whole 7-hour kind of like MTV, but Rad TV, and we had 1,300, 1,345 people on live during that time. It was really crazy. So that was pretty exciting. We did Grains Week the same way. So a lot of this content is also online when we couldn't do it in person. Chicory Week is a website that I also have to promote the Sagra, and there's a whole Instagram just for that and promotion of radicchio that I do with farmers and some restaurants that are in the Seattle area. Radicchio is a really big part of my work. It has been for the last few years because it is such a wonderful crop for us in the Pacific Northwest to grow, and a lot of farmers are making a good bit of money, and getting through the lean months of the winter time due to this crop. Okay, so as all I had for you today, there's a lot more to say, but I wanted to keep it to, if I try to keep it to 30 minutes, I'm happy to answer any questions. I'll leave you with, there's websites, the culinarybreedingnetwork.com, there's the Eat Winter Vegetables and the Chicory Week websites that I mentioned. Also Instagram, I didn't go through that really here, but I want to tell you that that is a really, really important part of the marketing and outreach that I do. Currently have 28,000 followers. It's a really fantastic tool for getting information out. I also do a newsletter. I'm not super consistent with that. I would say probably twice a year. I send out newsletters to give people updates on all the different projects that I'm working with and any upcoming events. And I do want to say that we have the upcoming variety showcase that we have happening this year. If anybody's interested in attending, is going to be in Portland, Oregon. It is going to be on Sunday, September 8th. And that the main focus, there's going to be 40 of those tables that you saw. The main focus are culinary grains, because it's part of the value added grains project, as well as dry farm produce. And like I told you, I have several projects that I work on to promote dry farming. So it's not that it's solely those things, but the majority of what will be there are those things. And it's a really fun event, and I encourage anybody to come that can. And I welcome any questions or discussion that you would like to have.
Thank you so much, Lynn. It is awesome. It is actually just that's how I found you at the meeting. It was amazing. So there's many questions. But before we go to the question, first thing, you said most of these workshops are open to public. So we have to go on your online. We don't have to people don't have to pay. So how's this work? You wanted to give a
Sorry.
little bit of heads up.
Okay, so the Variety Showcase and the Sagra are ones that you do buy tickets for.
Mhm.
But the festivals are open to the public and free. I mean, they're all open to the public, but I mean, some are ticketed because we usually can't write into a grant this
Right.
amount of money that it takes to put on something like this because it's quite expensive. So those are just online. You buy tickets to them. Right now, like the Variety Showcase tickets aren't up yet for the September event, but they will be. And a way that I get that information out to people is typically the newsletter and the Instagram. But then the festival, that are outdoor and they're like a lot, they're way more feasible. Like if when we're, if we're all, I don't know who all is listening, but if there are other researchers that are writing grants, it's a lot they are a lot more economical to do, so you can just have them open to the public. So I try to make it and I have to say, I also, even though that's the ones that are ticketed, there's a lot of tickets that we give away. And then there's discounts for growers, there's discounts that are working in social justice arenas. So we don't turn anyone away, so
Oh,
we make that very clear too in all of the promotion of this so that everyone is it's accessible to everyone. But yeah.
yeah. Are those like expensive or like in normal range, the ticket?
Well, okay, so for instance, like the one that we did in New York, there was a sliding scale of like $30 to $50.
Oh, that's very nice. So yeah. So your next show will be in Oregon, right? Not in this
Yep.
part of it. Yeah, because
Exactly. Well, yeah. So we have written into, so I am right now part of like 4 different ORAI grants and I don't know if they will happen or, well, I know that next year in the Midwest, we will have the Variety Showcase because it is in the value added grains. We do have funding for that. So that will happen in the Midwest. It could happen in Madison, or it could happen in Milwaukee. I work with the Artisan Grain Collaborative and they will help to figure that out. And then we will do it in Hudson Valley again, because that's again for that project. Then following year, and then we're hoping that we're going to do it in the Southeast, right?
yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And then I think it comes to Portland again. So those are the plans, but I just have to wait to see what kind of funding we get.
Yeah, I hope we can do it in Charleston. I saw Dr. Ward actually join the webinar today. So my hope is to put this in Charleston next time. So I can work with the team. So
That
that
would
would
be
be.
great.
So there's many questions, but the next question I wanted to ask, because of the food culture, it's beautiful, colorful, and it's very attractive to kids. And, if they are not eating vegetables, this will be a good way of teaching them. But would you add nutrition into this?
Yeah. Yes, and I'm sorry I didn't show you that. So whenever, possible, like if we have for instance, like if you went to the winter vegetable website, you can see that there is nutritional analysis with each of those. And I work with someone at OSU, that's in the nutrition department to put that together for me. And I actually have had a couple of nutrition, grad students that have wanted a special project. And so I'll assign them like, hey, here's like the 8 winter vegetables. This is just in this one project that I'm working with. Could you possibly, write up, the nutritional analysis of this and everything so I can like get that content out to people. So in that way as well, get people excited about.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's really, really good. So yeah, here is a question from one of the food scientists. So it's great work and excited. How about processing and using them for large number of applications for 2 things, perishability and high value, because they are organic and unique? What are your thoughts about the post-harvest processing to use them more than a fresh food?
I'm not sure if this is about the green beans. Do you think it is?
Probably he's asking about everything like salads or tomatoes because they all are perishable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So instead of like you are promoting a very good way for the fresh, but is there a way that we could
Yeah.
bring up
Yes.
the
And Well, okay, so one thing I want to say specifically about the green beans, actually, that was the Oregon Processed Vegetable Commission that funded that. So it was actually all frozen green beans that we were working with. So a lot of times I understand what you're saying. Like a lot of times it is like fresh, that I'm working with, but because I have a couple of times done like the variety showcase in the winter time to show the winter vegetables, I want the opportunity still for the tomato breeders and the pepper breeders and all these others that have main season harvest. I hook them up with folks that do like value added and like actually like some sort of post harvest processing. And I have them create something that then we can show off in that time slot. So there are like things that are like, I mean, sometimes it's been like kimchi, but sometimes it's been like I've had tomatoes processed and frozen, and then it's used as a sauce like months later, so I try to make a combination, at least when it's in the winter slot, there's usually a combination of those things.
Absolutely. Okay, there's a question from PhD student from Clemson University and asking you, how do you process the green beans to manipulate the beanie flavor when preparing the ice cream?
I said, I don't know. That's not my job. I'm not sure. Okay, so that one, I would have to ask the Musa people, and I would be very happy to connect this person to the person that
That would
to
be
the ice cream
wonderful.
maker. I don't know how that happens. I mean, my job is to be like, I'm gonna find like let's have something to eat, and I'm gonna find the people that are
Yeah,
going to like
yeah.
make that thing happen. I'm not sure, but I want to say that I have a friend who she has a restaurant, it's pizza and ice cream, and I can give her anything and she will put it in ice cream and it will be so fantastic. She's done parsley. I just went to Italy actually too and was working on radicchio, getting radicchio recipes, and there was radicchio gelato. So I think it just matters. I mean, I think it has a lot to do with like temperature and or the order of steps in which you do things, but I am not a food chemist or a chef, so I don't think I can answer that question.
Yeah, yeah, because I work on dry peas, and one of the things that when we extract our proteins, we have the beanie flavors. So our lab working on a lot of flavor activities right now for the breeding program. So yeah, this is like, yeah, I will let the student to contact, and maybe that's a good conversation. Okay, there's another question. It's about, oh, thank you for the wonderful presentation. I wonder, how do you use the feedback from the public to make selection of the breeding lines?
Okay, that's a great question. Thank you. So, okay, for instance, let's just take Jim Myers. I've been working with him forever. And so what I do with him is I'll right now, I'm thinking about his mild habanero, and it's like, let's bring like I help him to just like create the table. And it's like which I think of as like a canvas. I think of the breeders as the artists, the table as a canvas. And so make it really beautiful. Maybe if maybe you have a new novel cross and you want to show the parents, and then you want to show the cross and show people the diversity and what happens in the F1. You could then show them visually what happens in the F2, like how this all happens. Anyway, I work with Jim to kind of bring in and only show the people the breeding lines that are actually doing well in the field. I don't want anybody getting excited about and wanting something that doesn't grow well for farmers. Okay. So anyway, they come out and like, I mean, like, you could just use the carrot one as an example. Like, I ask each breeder, what do you want from me? Like, how can I help you with your table? Some of the breeders like to just talk to people, and they don't want, like they don't need the data, like the numbers and everything. They just want to sit there and talk to people. And then the selection honestly is just like what they've heard from people. Like maybe they're like, well, this one performed really well, but it looks in a way that these consumers are like, no. Like I interacted with 245 people probably, and they all said no. So that's a selection, right? But sometimes, I mean, that's what they're telling me too, because I want to say that I also do survey the breeders that participate as well as the attendees, and ask them different questions, obviously, but what they're getting out of it and what they're doing with that information. So a lot of times, if a breeder has come and done these tables many times, they've like stopped wanting to take actual hard data, and then actually just talk to people and utilize the feedback that they're getting. But if they want, if you were to come and you're a breeder and you want to you're like, I want to bring these 6 different breeding lines, and I want people to, let's say they're the carrots, and I want them to evaluate them for color, shape, size, flavor, whatever. I will work with you to create whatever in Qualtrics or in Seedlinked or whatever you want, a ballot, and on your table I would make a sign that would have the QR code, and that table would be that, and you could do that, and then you would have that information. But really, you know the breeder decides. I mean, sometimes, but I have to say, like, Jim Myers will be releasing this year 2 mild habaneros, and they are specifically chosen. I didn't show those slides, but he, at the beginning 10 years ago, he came with the chefs, and he had all of these different shapes, size, colors, flavors, and we had them do this. And the 2 breeding, like the 2 like lines that are now going commercial, are from this process.
Yes, Dr. Myers is an amazing breeder. So yeah, I totally agree with you. We usually I really like to see the scores, as well as I also like to talk to the people and then add that into my selection index. So
Yeah.
that's how most breeders do it. Um, we are running out of the time, and thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. I'm hoping that we can continue our work with you, and hope to see you here in Clemson or Charleston. And we'll have one of the showcases here.
I would love
For the
that.
vegetables, exactly. And then I saw a couple of growers from our state also join, so from Charleston area. So this is wonderful. Thank you
Great.
so much.
Thank you for
So
having me.
yeah, this is great. So next, our presentation would be next webinar would be from Dr. Malmer Tauber, and he is going to talk on research and commercialization of actually alternative plant-based protein. He's wonderful, and if you are interested on plant-based protein, please join with us. And I hope to see you all in March 13, 2024. And thank you all for joining. Thank you so much.